Hey, welcome back to another edition of The Preview. I'm Adam Kulikowski. I'll be your host, the one feeding all the questions to our expert on the other side of the glass, Andy Shea. We're in the home stretch now. PIAA semifinals, just one step away from playing for a state title. Two Mid-Penn teams remain, State College and Bishop McDevitt, and we'll take a look at both of their matchups and get Andy's take on who will punch their ticket to Chocolate Town. Hello, Andy. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. Thank you very much. It was peaceful and delicious. That's the best way to put it. Filled with lots of family, football, and food.
Yes, as it should be.
How was yours?
It was great. We did quite a bit of traveling out to Altoona to my wife's family. Got up to a little north of Scranton for my parents' family. So we had 2 turkey dinners on 2 days. It's double. All the festivities and also all the driving, but all the festivities and all the family time, which is wonderful. So happy to get back at it though. Really excited for the last 2 weeks of the high school football season. But before we get into this week's action, Andy, I want to take a step back. We had 2 really wild games last week.
They were.
On Friday at Rocco Tenzo Stadium, Bishop McDevitt survived those 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts where, you were in the press box where it was nice and cozy. I was on the sidelines, felt that breeze, felt the cold against St. Peter Strasburg where they advanced out of the quarterfinal. I'm just curious, Andy, what did Bishop McDevitt what did you learn about Bishop McDevitt in that game?
Well, I didn't really learn anything because I knew what their running game was, and I thought they had a good running game. What I learned was that Bishop McDevitt is a dicey proposition to win in that kind of adversity in terms of weather conditions and Mother Nature. I mean, it was literally the weather slammed the door on throwing the football. The wind was, it didn't matter whether you were with the wind or against the wind. It was so strong and swirling that any pass over 5 yards was just an adventure and luck. It was a lot of luck in any passing attempt. And for an offense that's built on on passing the ball, they basically had one hand tied behind their back. They won that game with defense. Everyone knows that. And that did not surprise me. I didn't learn anything. I knew that defense was capable of doing that, especially against a quality opponent like LS. To pitch a shutout, that was impressive. And even in those conditions, they had some help. Look, there's no doubt about it. The Pioneers could still move the ball some.
Yep.
They just turned it over. They coughed the ball up. But McDevitt took advantage of it. But, if Mother Nature takes something away like that, McDevitt, it's a dicey proposition for McDevitt. But that defense, I said it all season, everyone talked about that offense. And they should, but do not forget about the defense. Do not forget about what they're doing. And there it was, right there. They literally won that football game.
Yep. All season really flew under the radar, allowing 7 points, 10 points, 7 points, 10 points each week against lesser opponents, but still down. And they showed again this week, it's legit, it's there, and it's a force for them. It's something they could lean on when they needed to.
Yeah, they needed it. They won that game despite having sort of one hand tied behind their back offensively and, one just horrendous coaching decision. I mean, you have first and goal at the 1 foot line. You run it 4 times in those weather conditions. You don't throw it. And it cost them 7 points, and it nearly cost them the football game.
Yeah. Then, Andy, just to transition, then on Saturday, we saw State College last second field goal knock off Harrisburg in the 6A quarterfinal action. Just raise your hand if you had State College getting to the semifinals, right?
Yeah, no, they're a 5-loss team, right? They finished 3-4 in the Commonwealth division, and not only did they finish below 500 in the division, and they were a 500 team during the regular season. They got cracked a few times. They didn't get beat. They got cracked. And, we knew they had some injuries going on and they were unsettled at positions and they couldn't figure some things out. But that's not the reason you get cracked, right? I mean, they got beat pretty good. They're very well coached. I thought they were beat when Harrisburg went up 13-3 late in the third quarter, and then the very next play after Harrisburg went up 13-3, up by 10, there's less than 2 minutes remaining in the third quarter.
Yeah.
The game's, whittling down, and Harrisburg's up 2 scores. And the very next play after that, State College throws a pick. Harrisburg gets the ball back. You're like, that's out, they've already they went away from their running game right away and threw a pick. Went for a downfield pass, down 2 scores, and you're like, that's a little bit of panic button hitting. But they own the fourth quarter. That's just it. Not only did they score a late, a last second field goal, I think there was 3 seconds left to win it.
Yeah.
They scored 13 points
Yes.
in the third quarter. And the last 3 times Harrisburg had the football, after they got that interception, 3 and out. They had 2 possessions in the fourth quarter, 3 and out. State College ran 23 plays in the fourth quarter. Harrisburg ran 6.
Yeah.
State College just started rolling downhill. They had 142 yards just in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And they found a little magic of belief that they were the better team in the fourth quarter. And Harrisburg was gassed because they have a limited roster, and they got knocked off their comfort spot. We talked about that. And they had no idea how to stop that train from running them over.
Yeah. That offensive line, defensive line really, dominated in that second half there, especially like you said, and the fourth quarter really just took control of that game and just allowed them to get chunk plays down the field through their run game.
Yes. Yep.
Well, congratulations to both State College and Bishop McDevitt on getting to the semifinals. Obviously, a remarkable achievement for both of those clubs. Andy, as we jump into this week's action, let's take a look at the Bishop McDevitt game first. They travel to Coatesville on Friday to take on Bishop Shanahan in the PIAA Class 4A semifinal. If you're going, this one kicks off at 7 p.m. at the historic Red Raider Memorial Field. Andy, give us your breakdown on this game.
So, Eagles quarterback, Bishop Shanahan's quarterback, Cooper Jordan, he's a legitimate dual threat at quarterback for the Eagles. He's really good. And he is just a slightly better version than the Lampeter Strasburg quarterback that McDevitt's defense faced last week. The big difference is I think Cooper Jordan's more of a touchdown machine. He creates a lot of touchdowns for his team with his legs and arms. But I think for McDevitt, it's going to be a bit of the same sort of plan and offense that they faced last week. I really do. He has Jordan has a really good completion percentage. He's got, nearly 1,000 yards running with his legs. He's the engine that drives his team, and they will take shots with him. He's got a really good arm. He has a much better arm than the quarterback they faced last week. You couldn't see that because of the wind, but let's hope the wind doesn't affect the game like this, because there's 2 pretty good quarterbacks in this game. But I don't think this offense is going to be the Bishop Shannon offense is going to be a stretch for McDevitt's defense. And it's the first time in school history the Eagles are getting here. Yes. Does that matter? I don't think, not really, but I do know this. I do think McDevitt's freshman quarterback, for as good as he's been all year, and they played a really light schedule, let's be honest. I mean, in this matchup, Bishop Shanahan's played a significantly better week in and week out schedule. As good as Stone Saunders was all year, he was a problem in that win. And his inability to adjust and even function, he looked like a freshman. He looked like a freshman that had no clue. His mechanics, he was uncomfortable. I was disappointed at halftime that the coaching staff didn't get him out there throwing the ball some more against and with the wind, just to get him more comfortable, just step and throw. And it was a massive problem, but he looked, in the adversity, he looked like an unmitigated disaster in terms of a quarterback, in that he was uncomfortable and he just made poor throws across the board. So I just think that adversity can help him, and a little less of Mother Nature controlling what you can and can't do. That is going to help McDevitt. The bottom line is they're here because of their defense and turnovers. That's it. On a couple fronts, I think LS was the better team last week. They were better set up to win that game, and they didn't. So it's not easy to win when you lose 75% of your offense. It's just taken away from you. So I think McDevitt sort of is a little bit fortunate to be here, but they have a lot of weapons. If it's not 20-mile-an-hour winds and McDevitt can't throw the ball, they have some real ability to give Bishop Shanahan some real problems offensively.
Yeah. And Andy, this is Bishop McDevitt's 11th trip to the PIAA semifinal in school history. You mentioned Shanahan's first. So a little bit of an experience. And so different kids, it doesn't make much of a difference, like you said, but just, school history wise. And the last time Bishop McDevitt lost in the semifinals, do you remember this? 2018, Erie Prep, 48.
Oh yeah, was it Cathedral?
40. Yep. So what's your prediction in this game? Can Bishop McDevitt get it done?
I do. I think McDevitt wins. I like McDevitt's defense. I think football high school football in November and December in Pennsylvania. You can look at the offense and they do have a legit running game still, despite all of that glitz and gleam McDevitt has in that pass game. Their run offense carried them. They do have a good rushing attack to go along with that, all of that, shine and blaze and craziness in the pass game. And they leaned on it, but I still like their defense in this game. And I think going up against a familiar offense with a dual threat quarterback that is a real threat, 2 weeks in a row will serve them well.
Mm-hmm. So Andy, let's just, I just want to get your take on the other Class A semifinals, Jersey Shore against Aliquippa. Quick thought on who might advance in that game to Chocolate Town.
Yeah, no, not right now. I am going to make a pick later in the week, but I can't figure out which way I'm going to lean yet. There's a factor for Aliquippa, at this level that they struggle to win games at, getting to state finals and in the state finals. I haven't looked at that matchup close enough. I am going to make a pick. You have to look at our picks and predictions later in the week, but right now I'm not sure.
Okay. We'll table that then and make that the teaser for Thursday's picks and predictions at fourthdownmagazine.com. Andy, let's jump up to the 6A semifinal. This one's at Mansion Park Stadium in Altoona, home of Mrs. Fourth Down. They're going to host State College and Mount Lebanon. Andy, give us your take on this matchup.
Okay, so it's a mid-pen team going to the Ravens' Den, but for State College, it's just a short trip down to Altoona. So Mount Lebanon's allowed one team. The first time they played North Allegheny, they had to play North Allegheny twice. The first time they played North Allegheny, that is the only team to score 3 touchdowns this season against Mount Lebanon. And we know the kind of schedule they play, right? They play a really, really good schedule. I just told you they had to play and beat North Allegheny twice. They crushed Pittsburgh Central Catholic. So they are a team they're undefeated, but they're also rolling. Like they're playing their best football right now. And saying that about Mount Lebo's defense, let's say State College's offense is a little bit challenged. Is that a nice way to put it? Like we were talking about earlier, they're a 5-loss team that finished 3 and 4 in their division. They are making an improbable run, and they found success doing this by sort of bunching their offense up and just, relying on good defense and then just grinding the ball and shortening games. Yeah. So I think their defense, State College's defense, is going to be under the gun this week, in my opinion. I think you're going to see, can this defense hold up for State College? They've given up plenty of points this year. They've given up some yards this year. They've lost 5 football games, and they're facing an offense that has a 1,500-yard passer, a nearly 2,000-yard rusher, and a 1,000-yard receiver. And they are very, very balanced offensively under Palco, their head coach. They can get you coming and going. They're not a one-dimensional, sort of Pittsburgh, slam the ball at you and be, physical. They are physical, and they do like to bully, they like to football bully you a little bit. But I think Mount Lebanon's defense is an aggressive pressure defense. They want to disrupt and impact plays before they get started. They bring a lot of heat. They do a lot of slanting. They go for a lot of gaps. They love to get their linebackers running around and coming at you. They are not a sit back and keep everything kind of in front of you defense. They come right at you and just sort of, try and make you extremely uncomfortable. So for this game, the key for me I'm looking at is State College's defense, particularly their secondary, right? I think they're under the gun a bit this week. I know they shut down Harrisburg's running game last week, right? But that was sort of a one guy running in between the tackles. That's what Harrisburg's running game was predicated on. And that's kind of State College's strength defensively. But this offense from Mount Lebo is not predicated on success between the tackles. So I wonder offensively for State College, slamming Brady Bendick into the middle of the line 34 times. I don't know if that's going to work. I think they're going to have to open up just a little bit, especially as the game moves along. That sophomore quarterback who's playing and starting, Owen Yurka, he came alive using his legs late in that game last week, but he's not a seasoned high school football quarterback, and he threw 2 picks last week. So he's going to have to play very, very, very well. Their starting quarterback came in and played some snaps last week. He's clearly not comfortable and 100%, and his strength, which is kind of being mobile and being able to throw on the run, Furmanek, he just can't do it. Whatever the injury is, it limits him. It makes him be more of a stand-up soldier, and you can just tell he's not comfortable. So I don't even know if he's a legit option this week. Maybe another week makes him more healthy, but at the end of the day, Mount Lebanon's undefeated and played a really good quality schedule, and State College is a 5-loss team that got hot. That's going to show up at some point in this game.
Sandy, official prediction, Mount Lebanon?
Yes, it has to be Mount Lebanon. And I don't care which Mid-Penn team it would have been this week. Mount Lebanon is the team that's going to go to Hershey.
Sandy, the other semifinal, it's
yes,
Valley and the powerhouse that's all seemingly always there, St. Joseph's Prep. So who advances in this game next week? You have a prediction on this one that you could give us at this point?
I will. It's St. Joe's Prep. They're not as they're not as powerful as they've been the last couple of years, right? They're not as they're just not gonna just have that 21 to 28 point overwhelm you blitz. They still got plenty of quality. They still have a really good football team, but they're just not that you really can't contain them explosive. But I still think they're going to get back to Hershey.
Well, and Andy, we mentioned about the picks and predictions. We have every semifinal game in all 6 classifications. We're predicting all of those tomorrow at fourthdownmagazine.com in our weekly picks and predictions. That's it for this edition of the preview. Get up to see one of these great playoff games. Support your local teams and check us out at fourthdownmagazine.com for all of our weekly content. Andy, thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Adam.